Welcome BMP Nation to another episode of the Base Marriage Podcast. Thank you to my loyal subscribers. Don't forget to share this with a buddy who needs to hear it. Before we go on with today's podcast episode, I took this original script and I plugged it into Gab AI and I said, hey, go familiarize yourself with the Base Marriage Podcast and then take this script and kind of rewrite it, smooth it over. So it did, and the results were absolutely savage. So I can't use that as serious material, but just for fun, the first time that I read it, without reviewing it or anything, I read it and I recorded video and audio. It was absolutely hilarious to me, at least. I'm going to tack that onto the end of this podcast episode, so you can go listen to that. If you're easily offended, that is not content for you. You're not going to like it. Moving on to the main topic. Nearly every high school girl is allowed to pick her college, often with only financial constraints. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, these soon-to-be college co-eds are trusted by their parents, Catholic parents too, to lead themselves in all things in the tender years of 18 to 22 and beyond, for as long as they are unmarried. Sure, they might call daddy when they have a difficulty, but he's not really there to guard her. Generally, dad acts supportive. This is true even of the well-intended Catholic father. He has no idea what she's getting into on a daily basis, believing that she's making morally sound choices and leading herself in the spiritual life. She's competent enough to do it when she's still a teen. She's competent enough to do it when she's a college graduate and out in the working world. She's competent enough to lead herself in choosing friends, choosing a career, going on girls' trips. We treat her as though she's competent enough to get a job and fulfill the duties of that job, no matter how stressful, and maintain working relationships with her coworkers and boss. She's competent enough to pick a husband and plan a wedding. And yet somehow, when she gets married, something magical happens. She's no longer able to take care of herself. This woman who is trustworthy or supposedly trustworthy and living in community with thousands of other men and women can now no longer be counted on. What sorcery is this that occurs from single life to the married life, wherein she actually becomes a less competent and all-around worse version of herself that she needs her husband to lead her in the way she wants to be led? She's no longer able to maintain her own spiritual life, nor handle her day-to-day duties, nor make decisions for herself. Once married, she becomes retarded, or at least that's what you'd think from all the blame shifting and placating. I saw a post the other day. According to science, being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job ever. According to science? Really? Science? 15 days to stop the spread? Science? Or the arm poke will keep you from getting the vid? Science? Or you should stay away from strangers unless it's a Tinder hookup? That's science? This so-called science says stay-at-home mom is harder than being a cop, a Navy SEAL, harder than 12 hours as a cashier at Walmart, harder than a Google programmer, harder than making Apple electronics in a Chinese sweatshop, harder than litigation, than firefighting, than President of the United States, harder than a roofer, a bricklayer, plumber, 911 dispatcher. Seriously, folks, it's not. I was a stay-at-home dad for 5 years while working a full-time job from home and later when going through grad school. The kids, laundry, cooking were easier than the job I had at the time, which was a landman. I was a landman. You can go look that up if you want. Staying at home is a skill. And if moms were not so doggone hard on themselves and on each other emotionally, they'd see it's a pretty easy skill to learn. The biggest obstacle is they think they're supposed to be perfect and should be able to do all the things without any help and never get behind on anything. They're tyrants to themselves. That's not real life. Anyways, these young women are all competent and strong and independent until they get married, and then they're incompetent. They require their husbands to lead them in everything, or at least that's what they demonstrate. That's how our beliefs shift, that they're young, strong, and independent, and then when they get married, they're not young, strong, and independent, and they need their husbands to do everything for them, to lead everything, lead them in all things. You see how that mind shift works? It happens to us, we don't even realize it's happening, but that's essentially how we behave. Well, you can't have it both ways. They can't be strong and independent when they're young, but weak and dependent when they get 10 years older. That's illogical. The reality is more of this. A lot of girls, even Catholic girls, even at Catholic colleges and universities, get involved in relationships, and there's no daddy around to keep an eye on her, to protect her from the influence of young men who might be decent men, but who have some red flags in the morality department. So while she and her boyfriend go to adoration together every night, they also spend some time messing around in each other's dorm rooms when their roommates are out. They might not go all the way. They often don't. But these activities make them slaves of their passions. Their behaviors are sinful. And they keep these girls in relationships that are not good for them. These girls lack the ability to watch out for themselves. This isn't just a few either. This is probably a large majority. Yes, they go to Mass every day. And they may even veil at Mass and receive communion on the tongue while kneeling. And sometimes they fall into sin with these guys because women are made to be under a man's authority. And with dad not around, she's very likely to trust the boyfriend's judgment over her own. This was the case 20 years ago when I was a student at a prominent Catholic college, and this is still the case today. So sending daughters away to college without the watchful eye of dad often ends up harming them emotionally because women are all too easily given into the passions at the hands of a guy they think they like, but isn't that good for them. Girls compromise on their morals when their emotions are involved, and it causes significantly more emotional damage to them than it does to the guys. You know that time-honored tradition at weddings of the father giving away the bride? It was based in the father's testament that he watched over her and guided her purity, and is now giving the groom this pure virgin untouched by other men. What a gift! One man to another. That's a big deal. That's nothing more than ceremonial, though, in many cases. Messing around isn't just something fun with zero consequences. Many girls suffer long-term emotional and psychological effects from it. If they don't marry the guy they messed around with, many girls feel dirty, cheated, used, and take those feelings with them into their future marriage. Some of these girls project their guilt onto their husbands and put excessive amounts of guilt and shame on him for past infractions. For his past infractions. This isn't the measured and reasonable reaction to present sins, but over-the-top heaping coals upon his head for what the unscrupulous woman would brush off. For what a woman who did not have these scruples, who was not carrying around the guilt of her past mistakes, a woman like that would brush these things off from her husband's infractions. So let's flip things around. I wholeheartedly agree that women are generally not capable of making good life decisions without the constant watchful eye and competent guidance of their fathers. This is fitting with natural law, and the current cultural norms are opposite of this. But we have decades of evidence to support what the natural law tells us. Telling men to lead and acting as though they're stupid for not is unreasonable. Raise a child in the way he should go and he will never depart from it, barring divine intervention, of course. A large majority of men in America were trained to just be supportive of what women want and to support her in being strong and independent. That translates to mean give her what she wants or let her lead. If he doesn't, he's punished. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So it's important to understand that the men picking up these lessons are the first generation to hear these things. Absolutely everything in the culture, even in Catholic culture, and nearly everything in the trad Catholic culture, tells men to be subservient to their wives. It's hard to find, even among trad wives, one who doesn't follow from the front and who will humbly take no for an answer, even and especially from her husband. Even the Venerable Bishop Fulton Sheen makes this jump, and I've heard this even recently within the last 6 months in a homily, but basically it takes the Holy Family, you have Joseph and you have Mary, and they basically generalize Mary to represent all women, and they take Joseph as here is the model for all husbands. Well, here's the deal. Joseph was married to a woman who was without sin her entire life. So us trying to be like Joseph is not going to work because our wives are not Mary. They are not without sin. They are very sinful, just like the rest of us. And using Mary generalized as women, they don't talk about Mary's flaws because she didn't have any. And so when they blur that line between Mary, the mother of God, and women, and they say we should celebrate and venerate our wives as Joseph did with Mary, they're not the same thing. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Women are not the same as Mary. Women are not sinless. Women were not chosen to be the mother of God. One woman was chosen to be the mother of God. And so that line gets blurred to make it as though Mary is a woman, Mary is virtuous, Mary is venerable, therefore all women are virtuous, all women are to be venerated. So it's a thing that doesn't work. It's a model that doesn't work. We can't take the Holy Family as representing how we ought to be, at least when you're in a dysfunctional relationship, which, if you haven't noticed, this podcast is very much about dysfunctional relationships and how to navigate your way through that. If you are both really and truly genuinely trying to be charitable, trying to will the good of the other, that's an important thing. I still don't know that the Holy Family is a very good model for that, because Mary was without sin and the rest of the women aren't. And that sin manifests in a whole variety of different ways, and some women are less sinful than others. Some women are more virtuous than others. But I'd say that those women who are less sinful and more virtuous are few and far between. The first unforced error committed by men who shout at other men to lead is this. They hear women screeching, "He won't lead." Then they just take her word for it that the husband isn't leading, isn't trying to lead at all. He's just lazy and selfish. Well, beep, beep, back the truck up. In many cases, the wife complains that the husband isn't leading, but when you examine it closely, the husband is leading. He's just not leading in the way his wife wants him to. Many times, a Catholic woman may appear to be more devout than her husband. She says more prayers, is more pious, but she's holding bitterness and resentment against her husband, holds an attitude of contempt against him. If she were truly devout, she wouldn't treat her husband like this or think of her husband in this manner. The devil is using her supposed piety and devotion to inflate her pride and cause division in the marriage. She still lusts for power over her husband, as evidenced by the fact that she's essentially saying he's not doing it right. Well, it's never her job to even figure out if he's doing it right or not. Her job is just to follow whatever he says. Or if he's not leading in a particular area, she can just go and do what it is that she thinks is right in that moment. Or she can ask him about it. Hey, what's your input on this? And he goes, it doesn't matter. Leading doesn't mean he's going to give you the answer to everything. And sometimes it means he's giving you the leeway to figure it out for yourself, to problem solve for yourself, to make decisions for yourself. It might not always be that easy to make those decisions or to find those answers for yourself, but he's giving you that leeway to do it. But the devil is using her supposed piety and devotion to inflate her pride and cause division in the marriage. This is a pretty common mentality for many people, though. They experience some sort of growth in any area of life. Then they turn around and they look at the people who haven't experienced that growth yet, and they say, "Why are you so lazy, stupid, ignorant, unholy," etc. It's just an immaturity of not knowing that people are on different journeys and at different paces, and that before you had your spike in growth, you were the lazy, stupid, ignorant, unholy person to those who had already achieved those things. Now, whatever is new has the burden of proving that it was better than the old ways. What mankind knew for thousands of years was overthrown by the feminist revolution, was that a huge percentage of women could not be trusted to have a right perspective and to operate using their intellect over their emotions. We are suffering the effects of having abandoned that ancient wisdom. Women cry out, "But he won't lead," and men just repeat their cry. It'll save you a lot of time and energy to exercise a little more curiosity and skepticism about her complaint. It's pretty reliable to assume that most women don't understand cause and effect, or understand it, but don't want to apply it to diagnose the problems in their marriages. This is the first place to look. Cause and effect. What's upstream of his not leading? Has he tried to lead in the past? And why did he stop trying to lead? Are there ways in which he leads currently? Did he ever lead in any areas before? What is her personality like? Is she high in neuroticism? Is she prone to negative emotion and openly displays that negative emotion? Is he leading, but her standard has more requirements? Why is it that her standard for leadership is the right standard? Grace. She gets no grace from God by doing more. She gets grace through obedience to her husband. Finally, among those cases where the women are calling for their husbands to lead, talk to the husband. But don't start with a false base premise that he's not leading and how to fix it, because you've already shown him that you've taken his wife's side when all you have is her neurotic perspective about looking at the causes of the problem, or without looking at the causes of the problem. I bet if you talk to the husband, you'd get a significantly different perspective than the wife has described. I've worked with many women, and they call me asking for advice about family decisions. And my first question is, "What does your husband say about it?" And she gulps, and she says she didn't ask him. And she says she didn't ask him because she knows what his answer will be, and it's different than what she wants or what she thinks is best. Sorry, there's nowhere in that life of the Blessed Virgin Mary when she put her trust in her own judgment above that of her husband. She was full of grace. He wasn't. And yet God put her under the authority of Joseph. Mary may have had better ideas of how to do things, and yet it's not her job. For many women, words don't actually have meaning. They use words, but only in as much as they can use them to grasp for power. They'll say, "He doesn't lead." The same thing happens when many women say, "We need better communication." Dig deeper. What's often going on when she says we need better communication is she's competing with him for head of the household, and she's prone to negative emotions, to anxiety, to anger. And he's frustrated as hell because he comes home from work and she's nagging him about a variety of things. She has internal problems she hasn't dealt with, but she thinks he's the problem. That's not a communication problem. That's her unresolved childhood trauma problem that's harming the marriage, and she's seeing his reaction to it. Sometimes women will say that they want him to lead in prayer. Then he says, okay. And then she says, well, maybe we could pray a rosary together as a family. Then maybe they pray the rosary together. And she says, can we kneel instead of sit? Or can we pray Latin instead? Or can we do it at this time or at that time? By the time it actually gets done, this woman who is begging for her husband to be the spiritual leader has already made 7 or 8 suggestions. Well, if she has all the answers, what the hell does she need her husband to lead for? She's not making any space for him to lead. Part of it is you have to let him lead differently than you have in mind. And if he stays with 3 Hail Marys for the next 20 years, that's his choice in leadership. And wives will get more grace through humble obedience than by the desire to make him pray all these other devotions, which may be great devotions, but that's not what he in his leadership has chosen. Let him do it for God's sake. And the men echoing the call of women saying, lead, damn it, are falling for the same problem. Telling men who are struggling to start, that's not good enough. You need to be doing XYZ every night with your family. Wait, is the husband leading, or are you, Mr. Content Creator? These men calling for men to lead are acting as proxies to the unsatisfied wives. She gets these Catholic men to take her side to grasp for power over their husbands. Father Ripperger says you have to do this. Father Mike says husbands should do that. You're not doing any of it. This is what women say, grasping for power and using other men to do it. What needs to happen is mentorship of one man to another man, appealing to men's desire to give their families what they need, not what the wife thinks is good for the family. Most women are slaves to their lust for power over their husbands, as God told Eve in Genesis 3, and most women aren't even aware of it. Mentorship of other men looks like this. Men, let's look ahead to your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. What kind of life do you want them to have? Do you want them to be rich and successful with no concerns about money? Do you want them to have a big family, to feel supported, to be close to you, so that you and your wife and your family can support them in their lives? Do you want to embrace your sons-in-law? Do you want to help them through life? Do you want to be there and have Sunday dinner every week? Those are good things. Those are objectively good things, and to want those things for your children is a good thing. Remember, we talked about being supportive, and even in things that are not necessarily that great, a great many parents are just looking to be supportive, and then whatever that ends up looking like in the long term is fine with them until they only get to see their grandchildren once or twice a year because they live on the other side of the country because mom and dad chased careers or they chased hobbies. They moved somewhere else because of shiny things, but they never stayed around. They didn't stay around, so their kids are missing that relationship with grandparents. It's a really, truly vital relationship, and the parents are missing that support from their family. Because just in case you didn't know, parenting is not a skill that comes naturally. It's a thing that you are raised with. It's something you're taught from other people. And those who never learn those lessons of parenthood end up making a lot of assumptions about how to be a parent and about what kids need, and they don't actually know what kids need. So it ends up not going so well. But what do you want your children and grandchildren, what kind of a life do you want them to have? Look at that and then figure out, okay, over the next couple of years, what do I need to do in order to be able to get them to that point in life, to make that fruit happen long term? What lessons do I need to teach? What virtues do I need to teach? Skills, how do I need to pour myself into them that in the long term, that's going to work out to achieve that goal? Knowing what is right and good at the beginning and working to achieve that thing which is right and good, and then supporting your children and grandchildren in the direction of pursuing that thing that is right and good. There are things that we need as human beings that help us to function better, not even to function better, but they are richer. They bring more richness in life than a title, than a reputation or the respect of others. So yes, you do these things because they're right and good, not because your wife wears you down. You do things because they are right and good. You choose to do things because they're right and good, not because your wife wears you down or because you just really want to be the hero and say yes to see the momentary happiness in her eyes. Oh, yay. And then you get to feel like the hero, right? That's fleeting. And it's often a recipe for long-term disaster. Some of these no statements, like I just talked a minute ago about no being a very important word for your wife and kids to hear from you. Sometimes you have to say no for many years. 15-year-old daughter wants to wear a bikini to the freshman pool party because all the other girls are. Mom hears her daughter. She doesn't want her to feel left out. Dad is the only one who opposes it. Mom cajoles dad. She works on wearing him down over a period of time. He'll come around, she tells her daughter. Often dad will give in because it's hard to be at odds with one's wife, and because that's what was modeled for us in movies and TV, is to give in to our wives and kids pleading, and you get to be the hero. I'm picturing Chevy Chase in the vacation movies. Wife pleading, and everyone celebrates when he finally comes around despite his own concerns. Morally speaking, Chevy Chase's characters were losers. Those are not men to emulate for a steady and strong family tree. Because of decisions like his, many family trees look like they've been struck by lightning or infested with those wood-boring beetles. Much of it because husbands are trained to think that their value is in saying yes to their wives. You gotta tell her no and stick with it. Now husbands, recognize she's not likely to take no for an answer, or at least not very well. She's gonna ask you serious, and then she'll try to be sweet and maybe affectionate to get you to say yes. Then if you stick with your no, she'll be a you-know-what because you rejected her sweeter efforts. It's all a manipulation. If your wife is of this kind, then expect these manipulations at the beginning of her asking you for something controversial, and then steady yourself. The objective is to maintain your no while staying cool as a cucumber. Don't big sigh. Don't lash out. This is an example of what a husband could say, but you have to do it in a calm, chill voice. What Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference, calls the late night FM radio DJ voice. No is my answer. And it's not okay for you to brood or be passive aggressive or take it out on me because you don't like my answer. That's what 6th grade girls do. And you're not a 6th grade girl. It's okay to be disappointed and frustrated and sad. What you do with that disappointment, frustration, sadness is important. It's not okay to treat people badly because of it. Remember, be calm and chill when you say this. It's best if you're sitting relaxed in a chair or on the couch or when you say this. Whatever you can do to get her animal brain to perceive you as a non-threat is important. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So, animal brain. When you're in a moment of conflict with somebody in your family, let's say it's your wife or your daughter, if they're sitting in a particular room and you are between them and the doorway, their animal brain is going, there's no way to escape. So if their fight or flight response hits, you're in the way of flight. And so they're going to likely try to fight. So you can help neutralize that instinct if you go find a chair in the corner of the room somewhere away from the door where they have a visual straight path. They aren't going to feel like they're trapped in that conflict, trapped in that interaction. That's the instinct part. Back to it. Teach men how to lead, but mentor them and then let them lead. Give specific ideas. Heck, you can even spoon feed exactly step by step what to do, but you got to let them lead. Don't pummel them for not doing it, especially when they have an angry and neurotic wife they're up against. That's no easy feat to overcome. I've talked with many men who talk a good game, but then they turn right around and submit to their wives and they don't even see it. Even one famed author who wrote a spectacularly good book for men described in an interview I listened to about his previously poverty-stricken wife in a third world country totally dominates him with her emotional outbursts. It's one thing to preach it, it's another thing to practice it. Be patient with these guys. Men, be patient with yourselves. The goal you're shooting for is putting your family back in right order, where it is led by the husband's intellect, by his pursuit of what is right and good, not by the wife's neuroticism, impulsiveness, and manipulation. Yes, men need to lead, and a lot of them are. But it takes a hell of a lot longer and more effort than simply telling them. It takes a lot of investment of time and an appeal to reason and a ton of patience to finally yield results. But it's worth it. Keep the long-term goal in mind, and every tiny little bit of progress is celebrated. All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Base Marriage Podcast. Remember, coming right up is the Gab AI generated script. You'll see that in just a minute. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Bye. All right, here we go with the Gab AI, whatever. I just told her to refine it for a podcast episode, so we'll see what happens. Welcome to the BMP Nation, where we call out the clown world and rebuild marriages on truth, not feminist fairy tales. Shout out to the loyal subscribers. Share this with a buddy who's still stuck in the happy wife, happy life delusion. Chicken jockey chaos, gonzo marketing, or genuine mayhem? The Minecraft chicken jockey freakouts. Okay, have you seen this? The Minecraft chicken jockey freakouts. Either the greatest marketing stunt since F Joe Biden chance, or proof normies will riot over pixelated poultry. Theaters threatening to call cops? Pathetic. This is the energy missing from modern life. Unscripted, chaotic, and fun. The more they try to kill it, the bigger it gets. Invest in a damn wet dry vac and ride the wave. Look, I haven't set foot in a theater since Gran Torino. But if my kids get to yeet... if my kids get to yeet popcorn at a chicken jockey screening, take my $80, you corporate hacks. Yeet popcorn. Oh my gosh. Yeet pop... What does that even mean? What does yeet mean? Yeet popcorn. What does it mean to yeet something? Dear YouTube, what is yeet? To forcefully throw something. Okay. Speaking of the chaos, let's talk about the real clown show. Women who go from independent boss babes to helpless damsels the second they say I do. Girls pick colleges, careers, and Tinder dates with zero oversight. But post-wedding, suddenly she's a toddler who can't decide what's for dinner without a leader. Either she was always incompetent and parents failed, or this helpless wife act is a power play. Pick one. According to science, being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job. Cool story. Same science that said masks stop viruses but hookups don't spread them? Try roofing in July or deploying to Ramadi. Then tell me about your hardest job. The Daddy Void. Catholic dads send daughters to college thinking daily mass equals immunity to bad decisions. Newsflash, no dad on campus equals she's taking life advice from the guy who respects her boundaries, right after pushing them in his dorm room. Woo! The father giving away the bride used to mean, here's my pure daughter. Now it's just ceremonial, like a participation trophy for a race she's already lost. Oh my God! These are savage, man. Oh, wow. A participation trophy for a race she's already lost. All right. Next, the leadership trap. Wives scream, lead, but men obey my unspoken rules. He suggests prayer. She demands Latin rosaries at 5 a.m. He budgets. She cries, financial abuse. This isn't leadership. It's a power struggle with extra steps. It's like handing a man the steering wheel, then slapping his hands for not turning where you wanted. Either let him drive or admit you never wanted a captain, just a chauffeur. Brutal truths for men. The no playbook. When she lobbies for bikinis at the freshman pool party, don't negotiate. Say, no. Brooding won't change that. Act like an adult, not like a middle schooler with a credit card. Stay calm. She'll escalate. Hold the line. Disappointed? Fine. Passive-aggressive? That's a you problem. Mentorship matters. Stop telling men, just lead, like it's a switch to flip. Teach them to see the long game. Your grandkid's stability is greater than her temporary tantrum. A man's job isn't to make his wife happy, it's to make her holy, even if it pisses her off. That's all for today. Men, lead. Women, let him. Everyone else, wake up. Share this. BMP Nation out. Oh my God.